Yo, 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 what is up, my fallopian tubers? Cesario from the Vario coming back at you with another video for your butt. So today I have a video response for John 3D 80s Kids. Alright, now this is a cool response, just talking about, I think he wants to hear at least 3 of your obsessions in the hobby. Man, I'm almost done with this. I'm feeling good. But obsessions in the hobby, that's a strong word, obsession. You know what I mean? But uh, I'll try to make the best of it. So one of my first obsessions, I guess, was building sets. All right, just building sets. Period. Collected. I had baseball cards, like my whole life, and it wasn't until like about 85 or 86 when my cousin told me he collected cards and he spent the summer with us one year, and he was like, he collected cards and I collected cards, and when he came over he brought his cards and he showed me about collecting sets. So that was really the first time that I knew about, like, that cards were like different years and each year had numbers and stuff. So before I had a box just full of cards, and after he told me about sets and how they were structured, because I just didn't know, I was a kid, I started structuring my cards, I guess. So I started putting all my sets together and numbering and stuff like that. And one of the, this brought up a thought about that I hadn't thought about in a long, long time, really, to tell you the truth. So this is pretty kind of cool. Because, yeah, I started putting my sets together back then. But around 89, that's when I got my first, like, real job at a liquor store where I used to buy baseball cards at. I was still underage. I think I was 15 at the time, so the guy would pay me under the table, and he told me, as soon as you turn 16, you got to get your worker's permit. We'll make it legit, because he was kind of scared. But, so around 89, I mean, I started having extra income. So before that, the only income I had for baseball cards basically was my lunch money. So my lunch, because I was on a program, was 25 cents a day. So 25, my mom every day gave me a quarter for my lunch. But I wouldn't eat lunch. I mean, so all through like junior high, my freshman year, I never ate lunch. I would take that quarter, and packs back then were 45 cents, okay? So every 2 days, I could buy a pack and then have 5 cents to put in the bank. 2 days later, I'd buy another pack for 45 cents and then put another 5 cents into the bank. You know what I mean? So every so often, there'd be a day, when the bank money and the regular lunch money, I could buy 2 packs. You know what I mean? So, man, that was my budget back then. That's how you know, um, that was how I collected cards. And so, like, by 89, when I got that job, like, basically those 25 cents didn't cut it for me to complete the set from packs. But by 89, where I could buy multiple packs, with every check, that's when I first completed my first set. You know what I mean? So I completed my top set, and then I would just buy like the Fleer or the Donruss set. So check this out. So like the 89 Fleer, what why I have so many boxes of complete Fleer sets, but these are not complete, okay? Because I was obsessed with completed sets. Let's say I would buy a Fleer set like this, and then I also had a player run binder that I would have. So then I would pull the cards from the complete set of Fleer to put into my player binder, say Will Clark, Don Mattingly, Darryl Strawberry, Wade Boggs. The set wouldn't be complete anymore. But because I had extra income, I wasn't trying to put it together by packs. I would just, these were like $20, $15 back then. You know what I mean? I would just go buy another set, but there you go. I would trade cards and this and that, and then, oh, I don't have the complete set anymore, so go buy another complete set. And that's the obsession I had with sets back then. I mean, I would just that's why I have so many of these boxes, and I really got to go through them to see which ones are still actually complete, because a lot of them I depleted them uh, trying to make complete sets, or trying to complete player runs and stuff. All right, so my first obsession was sets, and one of the things that I was thinking about, that I was like, oh man, something that really haven't thought about in a long time about my sets, is around this time. Okay, so my parents got divorced when I was in the fifth grade, and so my mom had a boyfriend that lived with us for years. His name was Carlos, I remember. And so with all these sets right here, okay, so when you buy these sets, complete sets like this, they don't come in order. They do not come in order. Okay, you have to put them in order. So uh, my mom's boyfriend Carlos, he used to be in a heavy metal band. All right, and we connected a lot because I remember he would tell me stories about he was friends with Richard Ramirez in Texas, and he would tell me about Richard Ramirez, and how loner he was, but he knew him, and he was just a weird guy. And but we both love heavy metal. When I was younger, I lived as a part of one of my best friends, Sammy. His older brothers were into heavy metal, so I got into heavy metal. Big time into Kiss, and all these other bands. I knew all the heavy metal bands. So when my mom's boyfriend Carlos moved in, he was like pretty surprised, like me being young, and I had all my records. Kiss, Led Zeppelin. I had all these older records of heavy metal, and so we kind of bonded with that. And one of the things that was a trip is I also listen to rap. I listen to a lot of rap, and back then, rap used to play a lot of heavy metal riffs. It was like they would sample a lot of heavy metal stuff. So say like Run DMC, Rockbox. Um, so when I got my job, one of the first things I bought was a Walkman. So I had this Walkman, and one of the first tapes that I bought was I think it was called Run's House, and they had a lot of heavy metal riffs, and he played the drums. He was a drummer in his band. So in my garage at the house that we used to live at, he had his drum set, and the band would come, and they would actually band practice there, for their gigs. They would band practice there, but the drum set was always there. The guitar guys obviously would bring their guitars and then take them when they leave. But he loves some of my Run DMC music, like say Rockbox, Rockbox by Run DMC. And so when he would listen to it, he's like, "Hey, can I borrow that?" So he would borrow my Walkman and go in the garage and play the drums to the drum beat on Rockbox. He would play the drums. So back then, so my Walkman was my phone. That was my entertainment. We didn't have cell phones back then. So I would sit in the kitchen that was right next to the garage. There was a door from the kitchen to the garage, and he would go in there with my Walkman and my tape of Run DMC, and play the drums while he listened to the Walkman. And that gave me like a whole new appreciation for the drums, because I would hear so much, because I would sit in the kitchen and put these sets together while he was in there playing the drums. And I knew the songs that he was playing, but I couldn't hear the songs. All I could hear was the drums. But he would play for like an hour or two, and the sets took me way longer to put together back then. So then the next day, when he would finish and he would give back my Walkman, I would put my cards away and then wait till the next day and do it all over again. And that was kind of like a routine, like that started my obsession with putting my cards together. So I used to put my cards together in order while listening to him play the drums. And I got a whole new appreciation for the drums, because then when you just hear the drums alone, but you only hear the song in your head because you don't actually hear the song because he's in there with the Walkman on playing the drums, I would hear things that I would never hear before on the drums. And that gave me a whole new appreciation, for drumming, music, period, like everything else in music. So that's one of the reasons why I had this obsession with sets, I guess, because that's when I would put sets together. who was in there playing the drums, and that, like I said, that was my entertainment while I put my sets together. All right, so number two obsession, I guess, would be player collecting. So back then, player collecting, This Week in Baseball was a TV show. It would come on every Saturday or Sunday, and I watched that religiously. Religiously. Man, when I started watching YouTube, and Ray from Philly and a couple other people would play the song from This Week in Baseball, oh my God, you guys wouldn't believe like the nostalgia, like, oh my God, that brought back some, because I haven't heard that since I was a kid. Like, I hadn't heard that background song since I was a kid. I just thought it was the greatest. Dun 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 dun. Oh my God, This Week in Baseball. The violin, I love the violin. That's why I love Led Zeppelin and stuff like that, because they play like classical instruments. But oh my God, the song from This Week in Baseball is just like so baseball to me, so baseball to me. You know what I mean? But anyways, so yeah, when I was a kid, I used to collect by players. You know what I mean? So this is my actual, like, a lot of people have already seen it, but this is my actual, like, binder that I had as a kid. And so I did this like from 1986, and then it wasn't until like 89 or 90 when I really started meeting other collectors, and I would tell them, yeah, every week that I watched This Week in Baseball, just like by the highlights, I would change the rankings on my players. So say like I would have a top 10. So I would have binder pages, like say on my 30 favorite players. But from watching This Week in Baseball, my rankings would change. My top 10 would change every week, just by like the highlights, who did what. I was like, what have you done for me lately, basically, I guess, if you want to say that. So I would change the 30 players, my 30 favorite players that I had. I would change the top 10 every week by how they did that week, basically. And I remember my friend, like David, he was like, "You can't do that. Your top favorite have to stay the same all the time." So I did. I did a top 10 players, and I tried to keep it the same forever. And I remember the only thing that changed, it only changed one time, because Don Mattingly was my first favorite player. And man, I just remember seeing an interview where they asked him about Lou Gehrig, and he had no idea who he was. So with him having no idea who he was, I was like kind of flabbergasted. I don't know, and I dropped him to my number 3 player, but he was really my number 1, on the field performance wise. So then I changed my favorite player to Darryl Strawberry, and that was just like the rankings that I had forever. So man, I was really obsessed with ranking my players. You know what I mean? I was obsessed with that forever. I would, man, I just can't explain like how much I used to love baseball back then, and all the stuff that I did. All right, but I try to keep this video short. So number 3, the obsession I'm gonna have to move to, which is really the latest obsession that I had. There's so many obsessions in between, but putting my cards in binders. All right. And that whole thing, is kind of recent. It might be like 5 years ago that I started doing this or whatever it was. And 5 years might seem like a long time, but I've been collecting, since 81, 82. So it's not really that recent. But the reason I started doing this binder, putting my sets in binders, like I said, I was obsessed with sets, completing sets and putting sets. But as a kid, I wasn't obsessed with putting them in binders, just putting the sets together. And then I was probably more obsessed with putting player runs in sets back then. All right, but now I'm been obsessed with putting my sets in binders. All right, and the reason for that, uh, I I've said this before. There was a guy who had a contest to show your card room, and when I showed my card room back then was called my what was it called? My slash room, because my wife, when we moved to a house, we started renting a house. She said that, well, there you could keep all your cards in there. That could be your room. She did not want a TV in the living room. The living room had to be just, no entertainment. It was, that was her wishes. So my card room was like the entertainment room. We had the TV. So anytime anybody wanted to watch TV, they had to go in my card room. But I had my card room, but we also had the washer and dryer in there. My my son and my daughter were both in bands. They were both in bands, and they would have band practice in there. Especially my daughter, her band would practice in there in my card room. And I'm actually, like, when I think about it now, it's pretty cool, because I used to have all my vintage cards. Back then, I used to display a lot of the stuff. So, I had my best Mickey Mantle cards out there, my Pete Rose second year card. I'd have a lot of expensive stuff. But since these guys didn't collect, they didn't know the value back then. It wasn't like now where a lot of people know baseball cards are valuable. But nothing ever came out missing. My daughter would come in and she'd have like 20 people in that room, and they would have band practice, and yeah, nothing ever came out missing, man. But okay, where am I going with this? So, anyways, oh yeah, my card room. So this is before I started putting all my sets in binders. So this guy had a contest of show me your card room, and I was watching everybody else's videos of card rooms, dude, and my card room was like ghetto as hell. My card room was like ghetto as hell compared to other people. So I said, you know what? I want to start putting all my sets that I had in boxes into binders so it would look more presentable. Okay, so but when I started doing that at first, a habit that I had back then was putting the wax pack, like the actual pack cover, um, um, on slot one in the page, and then the cards would follow after that. So then when I started putting them in binders, I tried to put the wax pack, like the actual pack, on the spine. This is the spine of the binder. But then once I started getting into vintage, so 1958, 1969, the 70s, I couldn't find the wax packs covers, so I started putting the actual cards on the binders, because I was just kind of like, what would you call that? Whatever, you know what I mean? I didn't have the wax pack, so it was just kind of like a secondary thing. Well, I'll put the card instead, since I don't have the actual wax pack. And then it actually, like, people loved it. People loved it. Oh wow, it's so much better with the card on the spine instead of the pack. So then I went with it. You know what I mean? So that's where this obsession had its birth. You know what I mean? So there you go, guys. Hope that this go too long, but it's just me hanging out. Man, I love talking baseball cards, and but I guess those are my three obsessions that I have right now. Is probably those probably could be combined as one, as sets and binders. But my first obsession as a kid was putting the sets together, and then putting player runs together. And I'm kind of surprised that when I got full force back into the hobby again, like when card shows came back around and cards are more readily available, I never even had a second thought of just like starting off or restarting where I left off. Instead, I just started over, and I didn't continue my Strawberry, Boggs, or Madden League PC. I started a whole new one, which was like Bryce Harper, Mike Trout, Nolan Arenado, and Mike Stanton. But yeah, man, I wouldn't call it an obsession, but I guess it is. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm in Egypt in denial. Love the hobby and just keep collecting baseball cards forever, as said. Ciao. Yeah, and I'm sure some of you guys were probably expecting me to talk about Mickey Mantle, my obsession with Mickey Mantle. Man, when I was a kid, I loved Mickey Mantle just because that's was the hot card when I was a kid, the 1956 tops. You know what I mean? You see the shirt. What do you guys think? I always think this shirt. When I first saw this shirt, I had to have it, and I said right away, I thought, yeah, it's a 61 Mickey Mantle. The only difference is they made it for the natural, you know, and they put that lightning bolt there. But I thought, hey, that's obviously the 61 Mickey Mantle, you know. But yeah, man, I love me some Mickey Mantle. Uh, Especially the potential story. He could have been so much more, but I love that he did it his way, just like Frank Sinatra. You know what? I did it my way. Love the hobby. Keep collecting baseball cards forever. I said, ciao.